These are these origins of the devil. Saturn Chronos, you see, was overthrown. You see, so what we have here is these ancient powers. So if it was a black planet, it was overthrown, and so the Titans were burnt up, and their ashes was used to make humans. 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, which is carbon, which is the basis of melanin. So when you go into church and praying against Satan, you're praying against your own melanin, your own dark self, called the dark night of the soul, or the shadows, You see what I'm saying? Now, if the Titans were overthrown and their blood was turned into man and all, remember Satan was overthrown from heaven and he was bound for 1,000 years. Well, how do you bind a God? You put a God in a human body, and that's how you bind a God. Ooh. Do you know that the word devil, which means double, or diabos, or doppelganger, which means your double self, the word devil means man in the physical. So in so many words, these were different locations of energies that later on became demonized. You see, over the years, and they had nothing to do with evil as we think. The only evil that exists in the universe right now is your own ego. That is the evil. You create this world around you, and the evil that exists that you are so afraid of is your own ego. It's your own ego, but has nothing to do with some man, some cosmic force out there. It's evil.
Well, let me ask you this then, Bobby.
Yes.
You say the most evil force in the universe is your ego.
Yeah.
Now,
which is left.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the questions I have for you, if that's the case, some of the most profound speakers, scholars that I have met, that I have seen, are egotistical.
No. Let me explain when we talk about ego. Try to understand this. The ego we're talking about is not the egotistical thing that you know of. That's just a guide down here that happens based on fear. The ego that we're talking about here is the false self. We must make this distinction. You have a spiritual self that came down here. Then you have a false self that came into existence that supposed itself to be real, but it's really not real at all. And it took the place of the real you that's asleep inside of your body. That's your soul. So most of the people here, most of the people down here, most of the people are asleep. But what is running ourselves as we sleep is our ego self, our false self. So now, but the ego that we're talking about, as far as expressed based on human function, that's a different form of the ego. But one of the ways you get back to getting rid of that false self is humility. But so there's a difference in the ego with a person being egotistical, and the ego that I'm talking about is just your general life itself. That you suspect that you are the person you are, but in other words, you are a greater person than what you suspect. Because why? Because when you die, what happens to that particular person that you thought you were? It goes, you see what I'm saying? It dissolves or bounces around as thought forms or ghosts, but mainly your soul goes on to have other experiences. So that's the ego that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the ego as far as how we function based on traits of who we think we are. I'm talking about something entirely different.
So, Bobby, what about when people say the ego is also an entity? Like some people also classify it with the demiurge. Well, what do you have to?
That would also be the ego that would be the false self. But this particular ego that we're talking about, that's the false self, actually thinks it's human, and its expression could be egotistical. But we're talking about just that's a whole other paradigm that we get into. We'll have to come back on that. But But the evil, but my point here is this. We create the negativity and the evil from out of us. And we use concepts of the devil, Lucifer, and the dark ones as scapegoats for our own activities of evil that's innate in us based on a fall from who we really are. You understand where I'm coming from here? So, these particular, there was a movie called Revolver that came out with Andre 2000 was in it, Ray Liotta, Jason Statham, and in that particular movie, at the end, they was finding out that everything that was going on in the movie that people was thinking was actually evil was being created from their own minds. And that's the evil that we're talking about. You see what I'm saying? And some of the things that they put in those ancient texts were talking about your own mind. Talking about your own mind. That's the only evil there is. But the point I'm trying to say, there's no man sitting somewhere with a pitchfork or the goat symbol of Capricorn. That's evil. You see what I'm saying? It used to be an astrological sign or astronomical sign, and then all of a sudden it becomes evil. And all because the later generation didn't know what it was. So you got Osiranophus, you got Sabbath. Sabbath is another god that used to be Saturn, came out of Egypt. Then you got the Sabbath, which is the day of rest in Hebrew. So I thought that Saturn is evil and all. Then you have Saturn. Then you have Baron Samedi later on. These are just Saturn deities that beat people into shape. That beat people into shape. Then you have Osiris, god of the perfect black, is also called Uza, the chief demon of the Jews. Because Osiris is a Greek name. The Egyptian name is Osar. So Osar is also pronounced Uza by the Hebrews. So here it is again. Here's the Hebrews taking one of the chief gods of the Egyptian pantheon later on and making him evil. Bound, you see, making him evil. So the word Titan, is later on the Titan, Satan, which comes from the word Set, Egyptian, and On, Anubis, which means black opening, black hole, doorway. And remember now, Anubis is the person that guides you to the heaven realm. So here goes again. Here is ancient people's science to explain who they are, with later day people coming in and turning their particular gods into evil. You see what I'm saying? Now, in the Kabbalah, the Kabbalistic breakdown, 666 is a name and a word, is a name and an energy for Jesus. That's right. 666 is also a number that adds up to Jesus. Now, who is Jesus? Jesus is none other than Horus. So, whenever Kanye West was wearing Horus, he was wearing Jesus. You see what I'm saying? He was wearing Jesus. Now, let me break this down. To demystify this. All you got to do, the greatest work ever, and the Christian world say, we must make him persona non grata, because if anybody get this book from 1907 in their household, Jesus or Christianity can't exist, because we know that Christianity came straight up out of Egypt. So you want to get the African origins of historical origins of Christianity by Walter Williams. You want to get the pagan origins of the Christ myth. I'll get the name of that in a minute. Also, you want to get Christianity, the pagan origins of the Christ myth by John G. Jackson. You want to get Christianity Before Christ by John G. Jackson. You want to get other books that's going to give you that is you want to get also Echoes from the Old Dark Land, Dr. Charles Finch, a whole chapter in there on the Hebrew origins, the Egyptian origins of Judeo-Christian or Hebrew lore. So basically the devil and is nothing but the gods of yesteryear. Now, but one of the key books was Ancient Egypt, Light of the World. Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, Volume 2 of that particular book, 1907, gives you the complete breakdown, because he's one of the greatest Egyptologists that ever lived, and he was the one that identified Jesus was none other than a retelling of the ancient Egyptian god Horus or Heru. Heru means light. Jesus means light. But before I go into that, I want to say a few other things about this. In the Bible, in Genesis, Lucifer falls like the morning star. Lucifer just means light bringer. By the time you get to Revelation, Jesus say, I am the morning star. Now, Saturn is also called Sat, which is also called Set. One of Set's